Hepatitis A is a picornavirus, so a lot of what we're going to cover we already covered in the Picorna overview video, so we'll really hit the ground running on this one. First, let's set our scene. When you hear the word hepatitis, it should sound a little to you like hippotitis, so we'll use hippos to illustrate everything we want to remember about the virus. And also, like I already mentioned in the overview video, as a picornavirus, Hep A is an RNA virus, hence the yellow and golden warm colors. More specifically, it's a positive sense RNA virus, and we have it set in a daytime scene for positive sense. Here we have a hippo drawn in the background, and on his ankle there's a tag reading A for hepatitis A, or as we like to say, hepatitis A. We even have a baby hippo way in the back as its pico counterpart. And of course, hepatitis affects the hepatic system, or the liver. So we have a brown spot drawn on the hippos that are shaped like a liver to help us remember that. A huge thing about hepatitis A is that it's acid stable, just like most of the other picornaviruses. This contributes to its transmission, since it's transmitted fecal orally. And again, this makes sense since the stomach has a ton of acid that can help break down pathogens. But hepatitis A is acid stable, so it can somewhat easily make it through the stomach. We have our hippos hanging out on a rock in the middle of a bubbling and blistering pool of acid. So they're stable on this rock, protected from the acid, and hence they're acid stable. So next we're going to draw in the statue of David over here, because like the other picornaviruses, Hep A is a NAKI virus. Finally, we'll add some monstrous hippo poops to remind you of fecal-oral transmission. Let's spend some time going into transmission a bit more, since this is an important point for hepatitis A. Hep A can be shed in feces and then contaminate water supplies. In developed countries, a lot of effort goes into purifying our drinking water to eliminate hepatitis A. And we've very literally illustrated this by drawing a giant purifying machine that's purifying all of that gross acid and hippo poop. And in order to inactivate hepatitis A, you must use chlorination, bleach, UV radiation, or heat the water to 85 degrees Celsius for over a minute. And all of these processes are going on within this purifying machine here, and we've written all of these steps on the sign next to it. Again, this is what happens in developed countries, but in the developing world, where there's a lack of water purification, this is a common route of transmission for Hep A. Though the drinking water goes through extensive purification in the US and developed countries, we can get transmission through water sources indirectly. It can be transmitted in shellfish that were caught from contaminated water sources, especially uncooked shellfish. Let's draw in a USA shellfish snack bar at the zoo. The USA, of course, because that's a common route of transmission in the US. To reinforce that we're talking about hepatitis A, we'll have the shellfish snack bar with an A rating from the Department of Health. Some counties in the US use these rating systems, like New York and Los Angeles do, and somehow this snack bar received an A rating. Although, look at the shellfish saleswoman pulling shellfish out of the hippo exhibit here with a big fishing net. She's pulling them right out of this gross, poop-contaminated pond. So they're very contaminated shellfish, and a very common culprit for Hep A food poisoning in the US. Additionally, we've given her a large backpacking backpack, and this is because hepatitis A is common amongst travelers who are traveling to endemic areas, especially in the southern hemisphere. Okay, let's move on to clinical symptoms. Hep A is often clinically silent or subclinical and can be anicteric, meaning without jaundice. But it can also cause acute viral hepatitis, which would include fever, hepatomegaly, and jaundice. So let's talk about that because that's what you'll be tested on. In front of the snack bar, there are tables where everyone's hanging out, enjoying a nice day at the hippo acid pool. We can see one guy dressed in bright yellow sweater and pants, eating some of this contaminated shellfish and drinking some non-purified water. He's barfing everywhere, and this is to help you remember the symptoms of Hep A. His yellow jumpsuit helps remind us of jaundice, and this occurs especially in adults. Notice the child next to him is also vomiting, however, he's not wearing a yellow jumpsuit. This is because in young children, acute viral hepatitis is less likely to cause jaundice. It causes anapteric hepatitis. Finally, this last guy illustrates another clinical feature of hepatitis A, and that's that often smokers who develop hepatitis A will also develop an aversion to smoking tobacco products. So we have this guy extinguishing his cigarette, looking disgusted, as if he's sick of smoking. Okay, so let's talk treatment and symptom duration, both of which will be illustrated by this sign on the shellfish stand. It says, 1 month only, limit 1 per customer, no carrying out of food. First, we have 1 month only, which is the duration of the illness, roughly 1 month. Next, we have limit 1 per customer, which means that it's often self-limiting. So limit for self-limiting. And no carrying out signifies that there is no carrier or chronic state. Before we wrap up, let's talk about prevention. Hep A is one of the viruses we luckily have a vaccine for. To help you remember that, we drew a tranquilizer gun shaped like a syringe that we've placed on the hip of the shellfish zookeeper. We can remember that it's an inactivated vaccine because it's a tranquilizer gun. And what do tranquilizer guns do? They inactivate animals. It's good to remember to give the vaccine to patients who are in high-risk situations, like endemic areas, chronic liver disease patients, and men who have sex with men. And it's probably even more important for men who have sex with men who also enjoy oysters and like traveling. So Hep A is relatively simple compared to Hep B and Hep C since there's no chronic state, but don't let it become the neglected stepchild of the hepatitises or hepatitis, whatever. Review this in the Picorna overview video and you'll be golden. A nice jaundicey golden. Okay, until next time.